This is Defenders TV Podcast, episode 140, where we're talking about Jessica Jones, season 2, episode 3, aka Sole Survivor. What's up, fellow Defenders? It is I, Chris. I'm back in control, and this is Defenders TV Podcast, episode 140, where we're talking about, and quite enthusiastically, Jessica Jones, season 2, episode 3, aka Sole Survivor. And actually, not the Soul, S-O-U-L Survivor, we're talking about S-O-L-E Survivor.
I've had some bad spelling mistakes this week. I'm one of your hosts, Derek.
Yes, and I'm one of your other hosts, Jeff Probst. Oh, not that Survivor. Okay, sorry. Yeah. Okay, yes, I'm one of your other hosts, John. There we go.
Yes, fellow Defenders, you're listening to Defenders TV Podcast, the only place you need to go for all your Defenders needs on Marvel Netflix shows. And, of course, the MCU, just because, hey, it's there. We are right now reviewing Jessica Jones Season 2, and this episode we're going to go all the way through and give you our top 5 points for Jessica Jones Season 2, Episode 3, aka Sole Survivor. But, actually, you're probably thinking, I can skip 5 minutes because I know the usual rigmarole. Well, do not, because we're going to forgo our usual rigmarole. You know where you can find us, but if you don't, go to DefendersTVPodcast.com for all the information of where we are, how you can contact us, and how you can give us your feedback. But, do you know what? We've got a very special gift for you guys right now. John, do you want to tell them about it?
Yes, we have connected in with Stitcher Premium, and they are offering a month's free on Stitcher Premium for our fellow Defenders for the Marvel Wolverine The Long Night, which is a 10-episode scripted podcast that will be exclusively available on Stitcher Premium. It is featuring the awesome Richard Armitage from Hannibal. He was Francis Dolarhyde. So if, like with Wolverine, you like your main protagonists to be brutal and uncompromising, then he is certainly the man for you. The pint-sized Berserker Wolvie will be released as one episode a week from this Monday, the 12th of March. So just go on over to stitcher.com/premium and enter the code, and you've guessed it, Defenders, to get your free month. This offer is open until the end of September this year, in case you're listening a bit later. So please head on over. It is something that you'll hopefully love, and you'll certainly be helping to support the podcast by going over and listening in to Wolverine The Long Night.
Absolutely. And this year is 2018, in case you're listening in 2025 or anything like that. So if you go past September 2018, our code DEFENDERS will not work for you as your free month. But hopefully you'll pop on over there, sign up, and get a couple of episodes of Wolverine The Long Night to listen to. If you fancy listening to the rest of it, they are released once a week, and you can just stay subscribed to Stitcher Premium.
Absolutely. Like, normally we run a competition, but I think it's really good that this time we're able to hopefully offer everyone who's listening in a chance to check out this new Marvel scripted podcast featuring Richard Armitage and all about our lovely adamantium-infused pet dog.
Well, you like podcasts because, well, you're here. And we know you like Marvel because, well, you're here. So what else can we do but say, go to stitcher.com/premium and enter the code DEFENDERS to get your free month's trial. Anyway, boys, I think actually let's shake it up even a bit more and jump into our feedback, because we recorded episode 1 and 2 ahead of time.
Yep.
The show is now released, 13 episodes over on Netflix globally. So we have a bit of feedback from episodes 1 and episode 2.
Absolutely. I love when Jessica Jones is out in the wild and suddenly our Facebook group starts blowing up, our email starts to get emails in, our Twitter starts to get tweets in. It's great fun. Compiling it all together is always fun as well. First up, we've got a voicemail that's come in from Frederick, who sent it just after the first episode. Hadn't even heard our podcast before he sent it, but unfortunately we'd already recorded in advance, so I couldn't get it in time for the episode itself. Take it away, Frederick.
Hey Defenders, Frederick here. I just saw the first episode of Jessica Jones Season 2, and it was great. I haven't heard your podcast yet, so maybe this is irrelevant. Maybe you have already talked about these things in the podcast, but here goes. The dust that comes out of the box that is her little brother's ashes. I think it's pretty cool that it covers her so that she's covered in her past, and it also spreads out on the floor so that she is kind of caught in her office. She can't get out of the front door through that past. She has to face her past to get out. I think that was a kind of a cool metaphor. And then I have a little guess. I think that maybe her brother is this monster, and the ashes would, of course, then not be his body, but who can tell, right? Well, thanks for the podcast, and looking forward to hearing it.
Thank you so much for that feedback, Frederick. That's really, really interesting. I love the idea of the metaphor of her not being able to get out the front door of her office unless she confronts her past. That seems to be, so far, 3 episodes in, that seems to be pretty much what Jessica has to do in the show. So it's a really good catch there. As for the theory of her brother, that's fascinating.
Yes, I think that is pretty fascinating as well. And certainly after watching this episode as well, episode 3, I have another little theory as well that kind of links in with that. And maybe it's the same about the old meat face, I believe that it's referred to by Jessica, the meat face in the I.G.H facility. So yeah, I'm kind of with you there, Frederick, on that theory. I think it sounds pretty cool and would be awesome, I think.
Yeah, if only this was a video podcast, because you could see my eyes as you mentioned those words. I was like, ooh, did not think about that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, let's see how it turns out. I'm interested to see if you're right, and if you were, well done. You've beaten us on our guesses working out.
And as I say, it's really impressive because this feedback came in the morning of release. So this was definitely, he watched this first episode and recorded his feedback. So thank you so much for that, Fred. We love everybody having their ability to give guesses as to what's going on in this show. John, we have an iTunes review in as well. Do you want to take that one?
We do have an iTunes review in from Ryan. We spoke about Ryan previously because he had provided us with a lovely review, and he's back, and this time with 5 stars instead of 4. He was absolutely generous with this. He goes, "Hey guys, I'm back with a 5-star review this time. So glad to have Jessica back on our TV screens. I'm loving the storyline so far. Episode 1 was amazing. Really grabbed me back into the Jessica Jones series. And this season is really feeling like a detective show so far. I'm liking the fact that Jessica is talking to us and letting us know what she's thinking and needing to do to get the job done. Looking forward to the rest of the series and your guys' review on it. Keep up the good work, Ryan." Thank you so much, Ryan. Yeah, it's a real nice change, I think, for this episode, where we're really getting a sense of how Jessica is feeling through her chit chat with Trish and with Malcolm. And I think that's really kind of letting us see into that deep, dark, little tucked away heart of hers, I think.
Absolutely. And thanks so much for coming back and giving us another 5-star review. I feel like I might have browbeaten you into doing that and changing it. I didn't intend on it. My apologies, Ryan, but thanks so much for listening. It's really good to have you back on.
Don't worry, Ryan. He is keeping me and Chris tight on the leash as well with regards to our episode watching.
Yes, thank you very much, Ryan. Gentlemen, let's move over to Facebook because we have a bit of feedback for episode 1. Our fellow defender Ronaldo, also part of the collective with Into the Night the podcast as a host, he came in to say, "What a solid way to return to Jessica Jones. Seemed fresh and exciting, but at the same time it seemed like slipping on an old glove. I really like Patsy's expanded role and maybe wasn't paying too much attention, but I'm eager to see what the deal with Hogarth is. I like the little reference to Rand and man, oh man, the Wizard. Never knew I'd see him on screen. What a treat. Intriguing as to how he and Jessica are connected. Diving into the second episode now. Absolutely love it and glad to have JJ back. 5 stars. Thank you very much, Ronaldo. Really appreciate this feedback. And yes, it was a very solid way to return. Love to hear your feedback now for episode 3 as we've gone through. I found episode 2 a bit slow, but now we're into episode 3. I'm not going to give away spoilers, but wait and see. You'll hear my views there. But love to see your feedback there and what you thought of episode 3.
Yep, thanks, Ray. Jamie Young also came over to our Facebook group and says, "This first episode feels like a natural progression for the series after season 1. I like the tension between Jessica and Trish, and I really feel Jessica's frustration and helplessness at desperately wanting to help people and make a positive difference in the world, but not having the powers and means to do so, plus still living under the shadow of her childhood fame. She definitely should get a BFF of the Year award for singing at that birthday party. I also like the idea of Malcolm being kind of a surrogate brother to Jessica. I love how relentless he is in assisting her, even though she doesn't appreciate him at all. I keep firing you, but you keep not being fired. What's up with that? Lastly, I gotta get to episode 2. Some critics have said the first several episodes are slow, boring, and lack a sense of menace that Kilgrave provided, but I didn't feel that at all. Jessica was wrestling with many inner demons long before Kilgrave entered the picture. I think her poorly suppressed pain from losing her family and not understanding why she survived is quite dark and compelling. I can't wait to see what she finds out. You know, I totally agree with you, Jamie. This show has to do something different than Kilgrave, and I think it's hit on a really good idea of Jessica going back and exploring her past. We said throughout season 1 you had a first series for Jessica Jones, a character that not many people outside of comic book readers knew when that series came out, and they never actually told you how she got her powers, and they never give you clarification as to what her powers were. So it's a great way to lean on it for the second season. Thanks so much for that feedback, Jamie.
Yeah, thank you, Jamie. Bob Phillips comes in with good tense opening with enough threads starting, unexpectedly closing, and the mix of comedy, gore, and intrigue that we've come to expect. My big questions: what's the deal with the posh PI? Why are they giving all the powerful dictatorial women cancer? My guess as to the Thing, Alexandra and Hogarth. Is the new building super a goodie or a baddie? And what was that whiskey she drank a bottle of? Looked more expensive than her tipple last series. Yes, it was tin cup whiskey. And of course, yeah, it is much more expensive. So I don't know. Jessica, is she keeping up appearances? Did she win the prize bonds? But certainly she's acquiring some expensive tastes with her whiskey. Yeah, tin cup whiskey. A smooth bourbon from the Rocky Mountains.
Absolutely. Or as Chris said, could it be that she's just spending every penny that she gets on bottles of whiskey? That's possibly it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jeff Childs went on to say, I like the new mystery. They give Jessica cases where she can't just muscle her way out, but she tries anyway. Price Chang is a douche. I wonder what his part in this will be. Jeff, I 100% agree, both on being a douche and what his part is. We're still wondering, even up to episode 3.
And finally, on episode 1, Claire Payne says, really good opener for season 2. JJ is someone I have really grown to like over season 1 and The Defenders. As soon as the episode started, I was already absorbed in Jessica Jones' story and the way she's dealing with being a vigilante superhero. I have always enjoyed JJ's friendship with Trish and looking forward to see where this season takes them. The Wizard was brilliant.
Absolutely. Wizard. Indeed. Absolutely love the Wizard. On to episode 2 of Jessica Jones. Again, still with Facebook, Ronaldo goes, what an episode. Still just slowly starting to form a clearer picture as to who the main villain is, as there are plenty of characters like Cheng and the mysterious assassin in the works. Hogarth's plunge into self-destruction was very well done too, and Patsy's confrontation with her former director to tease information out was a handy subplot. Rebecca De Mornay was outstanding, I thought, as the mother of Patsy, and I liked how they fleshed out Malcolm's character. We think there's more to Griffin than a pretty face too. We shall see. Yes, there's a few pretty faces in Jessica Jones season 2. What with Griffin, with Trish, but also Malcolm has certainly got his door open this season, and dare I say it, it's slightly revolving.
Jamie Young jumped over to our Facebook group and gave us feedback saying, damn Simpson, that escalated quickly. I was thinking he and Jessica would become allies, but it doesn't look like that will be happening.
No.
With a broken neck? Who knows? It is comic books. He may come back to life. Who knows?
Absolutely. Jeff Childs says Scroty Sense was disgusting and hilarious.
Absolutely. Scroty Sense. Absolutely. So good.
I'd love to say that is my form of Spidey sense, but that's disgusting.
Claire Laffer goes, Griffin must be evil. He's British. Absolutely, Claire. All British are evil.
says our British host, and Claire is also a British host as well.
She is.
You're all allowed to say that. We're not allowed to say that, Chris, are we?
I don't know. Can we get a minority report on that? Is it a racist thing to say?
I think if we say it, we get arrested. Jean's totally able to say it, and Claire's totally able to say it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I'll just go back to my Scrody sentences.
Yeah, absolutely. No one from Britain has ever been evil. Ever. Indeed.
Debbie Fisher also came over and says, it seemed to be a proper creepy episode. Hello, Simpson. Rest in peace, Simpson. Rebecca De Morey. Wow. Haven't seen her in forever, and she is great. Something does seem up with Griffin. Seems too perfect. Yep. He's British. He must be evil. As Claire said.
You're not allowed to say that.
I just said, as Claire said.
Okay.
It's fine. That's how... It's basically, I'm paraphrasing.
I like it.
It's like if I said, I think John is crazy. Because Derek told me.
Right. Okay.
See, I'm paraphrasing something you've told me in the past.
I've not told you that.
I hope he's not said that.
And finally, Donald Dennis says, good first couple of episodes. This is one of the first times I was multitasking while watching a Netflix Marvel show. Apparently, I missed out on more details than I thought. I guess Donald's been listening to our hour-long podcasts about the 50-minute episodes of Jessica Jones. So thanks for listening, Donald.
Absolutely. Thank you, Donald. And thank you, everyone else, for all your feedback. It's really good to have all these comments and discussions. It's really, really great. And especially when we get sort of excellent tidbits such as Grody Sense. But with that, on with the episode details and on with our spoiler-filled review of episode 3, aka Soul Survivor.
Yep, this episode was written by Lisa Randolph. She's not actually done any of the Marvel shows before, but she did do 2 episodes of the excellent Star Trek Discovery this season. If you haven't watched Star Trek Discovery, go over and watch it. She actually wrote 2 of the best episodes of the season. She also did 7 episodes of the US remake of Being Human as well. So
excellent.
So she's done some supernatural stuff before as well. And the episode was directed by Mairzee Almas. She's a first-time director on the Marvel shows as well, but has done a lot of DC TV. She's worked on Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow, Lucifer, iZombie, and all the way back to Smallville. So she's been in the industry a long time working on superheroes. Welcome to Marvel.
Yes, welcome to the good side of comic books. But before Derek jumps in and gives out to me on that one, John, do you want to take us away with your synopsis?
Sure. Jessica throws the body of the murdered Will Simpson out to sea for a naval burial, where Jessica and her family used to head for vacation. With her past getting people killed and her visions intensifying, Jessica must face her past head-on. With the help of Trish, they begin investigating the mystery killer of former I.G.H patients. Jessica returns to the I.G.H clinic, where she comes across a new lead about a Dr Leslie Hansen, who used to work at the facility. If things were bad enough, as she sets out to track Dr Hansen for answers, her new superintendent issues an eviction notice, and Jeri asks for Jessica's help to dig dirt on her partners, after Jeri is issued an ultimatum by Chao and Benowitz, as her medical diagnosis becomes known. Later in the day, at Dr Hansen's apartment, Trish and Jessica find an unidentified body in the basement. As the local hospital morgue attendant is bribed to help identify the body, Trish tries to lure Dr Hansen from hiding by publicly naming her on Trish Talk. The ploy seems to work, and Trish agrees to meet her until Jessica puts a paparazzi stop to it, faking the breakup of Trish and Griffin. Jessica heads to the meetup point in a bar, where she grabs a quick sneaky pint, should I say whiskey, before confronting Dr Hansen about the heinous crimes of I.G.H. As Trish is in lockdown with Malcolm sitting on her, she learns that the unidentified body is in fact Dr Hansen. As Trish and Malcolm race to warn Jessica, she discovers for herself just how dangerous this mystery woman can be. I love the fact that Malcolm was sitting, potentially should have sat on Trish.
Go over there and sit on her. Yes.
And I have to say, that opening where, you know, you have the opening vista of the sea, and that thing just comes flying across. I thought it was Jessica skimming stones or something like that on the beach. I didn't realise that she had just thrown Will Simpson's body out to sea.
It's not a great way to treat an old friend
It
or an old
was
flame
hilarious.
for Trish.
It was so funny.
I think it's time to jump into our top 5 case notes. And I'm going to jump in here on case note number 1. Mm-hmm. And I think, I'm not sure which of you beautifully titled this, but it's called Trish Goes Nuclear.
Always me.
It wasn't me. I'm not that good a writer.
Well, neither is Derek, but it's still quite good on this try. Mm-hmm. So Trish goes nuclear. I'm really, really liking this. So I really wanted to discuss one bit which had me chomping at this as soon as Trish took the bag of guns and the inhaler in the car. Oh my God, are we witnessing the origin of Hellcat?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? I just really liked this idea that she's kind of, as was said in our feedback earlier on, Trish wants to be protective, and she's lived her entire life with Jessica Jones, a superpowered person, right at her side, helping her out whenever she needed someone to help out. This is Trish's opportunity, it seems. She's looking at this huge bag of guns and the inhaler that Simpson used while he was protecting her. It seems like Trish is going, maybe I can use that and I can protect people. It's just a little moment, but I think it works really well for the character.
Yeah, I this was why I was so happy, because we know Trish knows Krav Maga from the first season. Mm-hmm. We know that she has been, as Derek, you pointed out, she wants to protect people. She's becoming this very much, I want to do more than just be a radio show icon, ex-celebrity, child star, that type of thing. She wants to be more respected.
Yeah.
She sees what Jessica is and what she could be, and Jessica doesn't want that, so Trish is like, well, fine. I could do it.
Exactly.
I could be the hero. Now, sorry, just for our listeners, our fellow vendors who don't know who Hellcat is, just very quick aside. So, within the comic books, Trish Walker, Patsy Walker, is a superhero called Hellcat.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll take more into who that is later on. But as of right now, she wears a red wig, she has a big blue face mask, and a yellow and blue kind of superhero costume. Mm-hmm. She's gone through ups and downs, different teams. She's never been like a very big character. She's never been an Avenger front line.
Right.
She's probably been an Avenger, but she's never been a front line. Mm-hmm. I like the idea of this turning, again, similar to the Wizard, taking a character that, well, in Patsy's case and Hellcat's case, we've been speculating. Like, oh my God, will they actually introduce her? This is a 2-season origin of actually Hellcat, potentially.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's really good. I love the fact that she's really wanting to stand side by side with Jessica here. Mm-hmm. As you say, we get that moment from the teaser where she says Jessica doesn't want a sidekick, but we need to go and help her. It was that moment in the teaser trailer where we're like, Hellcat's here, and we really see this. I love the fact, as you said, Chris, that it is a consistent. It continues her journey of she wanted to protect herself. She was doing self-defense classes and all that kind of stuff, and now she's wanting to go on the offensive. She's wanting to have the guns. I like the fact that there's that moment when she's got the guns where they're far too heavy for her, and Jessica passes them over. Nice little touch there, I think. Yeah. But you also get that moment where she looks at Simpson's inhaler as well, which I thought was really cool. So I'm just wondering, is there going to be a situation where she sees that she needs to use it in any way? That will be quite interesting to see, I think. But certainly, I'm really enjoying Trish banging the shields and really wanting to head out into the action. I think as well here, you see it all the time being undermined by Jessica. Jessica does pull that moment where she texts to the local celebrity mag, Griffin and her have just broken up in order to keep her pinned down, because for Jessica, she still doesn't necessarily believe in Trish's ability to handle the situation.
Yeah.
She's not the PI. She's not the one that's been out on the streets. She's the media star of the two. And I really like that there is still that element of protectiveness from Jessica for her stepsister, mm-hmm. for a sister in arms. And certainly, this looks really, really interesting. And Trish is going for it, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a great thing about reading our feedback for episode 1 and 2 before we actually talked about this, everybody seemed to be on the same page as us about Griffin, that he can't possibly be a good guy. There is that conversation between Jessica and Trish about him, saying that she's investigated him because she does that with her boyfriends, because she's not very smart when it comes to men, basically, as Jessica says. But this time she's made the right decision. It seems like there's nothing in his past that would mean he's a bad guy from Jessica's point of view. He has done things. He has lived, as Jessica says, but everybody has.
But he is there fiddling with her laptop as well after he's come in. So it's kind of like, what is happening there? He seems to... Is it just simply that he's trying to steal her story? Or is there some kind of darker purpose there? But I quite like the idea that there's that trouble between Trish and Griffin. I love the sly comment from Jessica as she walks out going, aren't relationships great? When the fact that Trish hasn't been telling Griffin where he is, he's absolutely worrying himself sick over it. So I really like that. But we do see, even despite this little kind of wobble, she does call out that she loves him in this. So it's really interesting, and I hope it works. I hope he is not the nasty British actor who turns out to be the captain of the Death Star or something like that.
I honestly think they're doing this on purpose now.
Right.
I really do think that they're making Griffin out to look like the bad guy. And it's all going to be that, like, he's stealing the case notes and her files so that he can help someone else pull all the information, and he's just going to hand it to her on a platter after she's already found out that he's done all this bad stuff.
Right.
And he was like, I was doing it for you. I wanted to give this to you for your, like, a present as a thing. But she'll have already found it and like, oh my God, you don't trust me with anything. I'm not a child, blah, blah, blah. It's a misdirect. It's going to be like, yeah, he's the bad guy, your typical British villain from, like, James Bond, and, oh, I have a British accent, I must be evil. Mm-hmm. I wear suits, I must be evil. This is going to be the whole, it was a misdirect, he was actually a lovable guy all along. Kind of like John. He wears a suit in his British accent. You think he's evil. He's not. He's just a fellow defender like us.
Go on, Chris. Do that English accent one more time.
Cha-la-la-la-la.
Mary Poppins, governor. It's funny as well because I really like, even though I was saying that Jessica's looking after Trish, I love the fact that Trish tries to, in her own way, tries to look after Jessica by sending her to the shrink, the pseudo mind control shrink, which is very Kilgravian of her in a sense. The fact that she's trying to get some hypnosis to pull out those inner demons that even Jessica has identified as, she needs to face these head on because they're starting to get people killed, like the Wizard, like Simpson. So I really like that. And I have to say, I love the fact that during that session, there was no safe place that Jessica could think of except for the bar between 9th and 4th Street, because they give pretty good measures and there's free hot dogs. I thought that was quality. That real sly sense of wit in this show is something that I absolutely love. It's so good.
Absolutely. I love that when Dr. Tybalt says to Jessica, think about a place like maybe a vacation spot on a beach or something, and Trish is in the background going, no, not that. But this is Dr. Tybalt that's brought in. So we mentioned this back in episode 1 that he was supposed to be appearing on Trish's radio show, and in the comic books, that's the character, the Ringmaster. I think I can pretty much clarify this is not going to be the villain of the series. Doesn't look like the right villain of the series, but that is definitely Dr. Tybalt that was mentioned before in the show. So
yeah, this is the typical Netflix Marvel thing. This is our Melvin Potter, the Gladiator, from Daredevil. This is, hey, you're in here, you're going to help advance a plot, but you're not going to get the stilt legs or the superhero powers.
Right.
This is just, hey, it's a nice nod to people like us who go, oh my God, I know that name, kind of thing.
And isn't it cool that in Daredevil, that character was a person that built Daredevil's suit? In Jessica Jones, that character's like a psychiatrist that might be able to cure Jessica of some of her problems. So, very different take on a minor comic book character in
absolutely.
Netflix.
But I think moving on to our second case note, the medical disclosure. Yeah, Jeryn Hogarth. Not only do we find out that Chao absolutely does not like Jeryn Hogarth, we see that she has got ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. So this is, she's got a degenerative neurological disease. And, do you know, I absolutely think this was like amazing for Jerry Hogarth. You know, this is a woman who is massively intelligent, massively professionally successful. And I loved the fact and the moment when Jeri, you know, we see her pushing away Foggy Nelson in fantastic little cameo from him, but we see her go kind of cap in hand almost to Jessica. And I have to say, there's one of the best moments of this episode for me where Jeri really is, you know, just saying, I'm alone, I'm estranged, all I have are my clients, my firm, and the name above the door. You know, I only have that, and if I lose that in any way, what do I have as some kind of legacy, in a sense?
Yeah.
And I thought the way that was delivered, you know, to Jessica, and they've not had the closest of relationships. Even the start of it is massively frosty. Jessica is like going, no, don't sit down. You've got my time. You've got 5 minutes. I thought this was really so well done. I think Carrie-Anne Moss just delivered that idea of losing control so well.
Absolutely. And Chris, we talked about this back in episode 1 when we found out that she was sick, and you were kind of thinking it might be something else, and I was thinking about another character having cancer, effectively, is what I thought it was at the time. What do you think of the decision for the ALS as being the illness?
I can't say that I love ALS. I love the choice of them going down this route. As John said, this is a strong female character who is defined by her intellect, defined by her her poise, her ability to command a room, and stripping that away from this character. But even that, it's not an immediate. It doesn't take immediate effect, and I think that is the thing. We hear what she says, that this is going to slowly disintegrate her life, and she cares about her legacy, not about now, because she said, I have buckets of cash. And then the joke, the dry wit you talked about earlier, saying she was like, I plan on spending it all. She's gonna blow through her money, but still wants to maintain that her name, Hogarth, is on that door at the end of this.
Yeah.
As John said, that scene with her and Jessica, right now, that is potentially my favourite scene in this whole damn show.
Yeah, me too.
It was just so powerful, so raw, realistic. Because you can imagine, I wouldn't wish this on my enemies. Like, and that's quite true. I know someone who went through ALS, and it is a horrible, horrible thing.
Yeah.
But this is just so raw and emotional. You could see two people who are not really friends, but kind of friends, having this. And this could be like 2 minutes from you right now when you're listening to our podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the line Jeri says, which is, if I believed in God, I'd say her sense of humor is for shit. Two things with that. One, she says, I'd say her sense of humor is for shit. I love the fact that Jeri's like, no, God's a woman, just take it. And it's just, it's just out there. It's like, yeah, no, it's done. We're talking about this. And it's just the embodiment of that line that kind of stinks exactly what Jeri Hogarth is. She is a practical woman, but she's still not going to take this lying down. And she's going to have even her own dry sense of humor. This is the Jeri who's just found out things are terrible, went deep into a hole of hookers and blow and wine and everything, and has gone, no, screw this, I'm going the other way. I'm very, very happy with this. About the storyline, again, not the character, wouldn't wish this on my enemies.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think as well, you know, it comes from the second episode where we see her doing the drugs, again, that contract, and then she lays herself bare to Jessica, and Jessica can only but just listen and say, I will do this, you know, in a sense. I thought this was done so well. As you say, Chris, I think this is probably my favourite bit of the show so far, just because of who it is. You know, Jeri's not someone you can warm to necessarily, but it is that idea that everyone can have these moments where they just feel like they want to collapse and fold in, you know?
Yeah.
But she's still fighting.
Absolutely. And it is interesting that she goes to Jessica for help when another lawyer has walked into her office, as you kind of mentioned earlier on, John. Another lawyer has walked into her office saying, this entire contract that you signed is bullshit. I can fix this.
Yeah, it's our favourite avocado in law. I'm so happy to see Foggy Nelson back. Even if it is for this fleeting moment.
Yeah. A great way to make sure he doesn't come back, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it was basically get the hell out. It's like, oh, okay, it's a nice cameo. It's a bit part done. Now, we may see him for another 2 seconds in later on. But I like the way they're threading the interconnectedness of this universe. Very much showing. But, again, by the end of this, he needs to be fired. Or at least on a rocky relationship, because we want him back with our avocados and laws together.
Yeah, absolutely.
For Daredevil season 3.
Maybe. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure if we're actually going to have that law firm ever again. Murdoch and Nelson, you know, that is sad, but it was there for a season and a half, and he's now got a very big job, able to do the stuff he can do under Hogarth's firm. So I'm wondering if it's just an expansion of his character. It might happen. He might go back and have that private practice again. But the way he's been used since Daredevil season 2 in these shows like Luke Cage and in Defenders and in Jessica Jones now is working really well for me. I'm kind of liking it. I like the idea that he's going to be independent from Matt Murdock for a while. When they do eventually meet back up, I kind of like the idea that he has something else going on and it's not dependent on Matt. So they could absolutely still be friends and still have all their exciting adventures going on with him still working under Hogarth and making a lot of money and getting his haircut much better than he used to when he was in there.
Yeah, no, I loved this Foggy cameo. I thought it was just really nicely slotted in, and it kind of also just really made that idea of Jeri being again a bit of a bitch. You know, do you think that we've just shared the stand together in the courtroom that we're friends? It's like, maybe put your head in the sand and not up my ass. I love that phrase. That is so good, you know. And she challenges him, you know, what right do you have to involve yourself in my affairs? And then she goes to Jessica, because she does see Jessica as a friend, rightly or wrongly. Well, you know, at least in some Jerry Hogarth special way she does, but not necessarily Foggy. And that's what made this Foggy cameo so good.
I just think it worked. Yeah, I think it worked. I really don't understand why Jeri is looking to Jessica, other than she is the most straight-talking person in the world. She definitely won't reveal your secrets to somebody else. That's not the kind of person she is. So there's no office gossip with Jessica Jones, you know. So potentially that's the reason. But I thought they were on really bad terms at the beginning of this season. I know she wanted her to work for her. That's why she got Price Chang involved. But I didn't really see her going to Jessica. But she's desperate times, I suppose.
Well, I think it's more that Jessica is known to get results.
Yeah.
She's able to ferret out the dirt where no one else is. And as you said, Jessica said in this episode, there's always dirt somewhere.
Yeah.
So I think that's why she's gone. And all your points about Foggy are 100% true, but unfortunately they're all predicated on Hogarth's name and Hogarth being there at the end of season 2 of Jessica Jones. And we do not know if that is going to be the case.
No, that's true.
So,
yeah,
Hogarth leaves. Maybe we end up having Hogarth, Nelson, and Murdoch in season 3 of Daredevil. There is a lot of options, but it's all predicated on there even could be no Hogarth.
Yeah, or maybe it could be Chao, Benowitz, and Nelson, attorneys at law.
He's a bit too junior in this.
I think he was brought on a pretty high level, but you never know. They might need a replacement on the board.
Derek, do you want to take us on to our third case note for this episode?
Absolutely, yes. Jessica's nightmare. I just thought this was really interesting to see. It's effectively where she's sitting there drinking her tin cup whiskey, falls asleep and wakes up. I love the opening shot because it's what we've been saying for 2 seasons. So the opening shot of her nightmare is basically that she's got a bottle of whiskey taped into her arm and she's effectively feeding off that. But I don't know, it's just a little theory, because I don't do theories very often, but a little theory. As she leaves the room in this dream, in this nightmare, one end of the hallway has a window outside, and it's backed by purple. The other end of the hallway, where the door is, that's also backed by purple. And then in between that, we have the monster, or the burned face person, in between those two doors in this nightmare. Is this Kilgrave? Is this the representation of purple in the series has meant Kilgrave in the past?
Yeah.
Is the fact that she sees a burned face person, is that burned face just blocking out Kilgrave from her mind? Or is it a different character? I'm just wondering, just speculating there.
It's that moment, isn't it, where she has the dream, but she sees Meatface when she goes back to I.G.H. for the first time, isn't it? So, yeah, I love the purple encroaching. Like it's behind the door. So
yeah.
Is Kilgrave part of the I.G.H. experimentation as well? Really good. And yeah, talking of Meatface, I had exactly the same thought. It's like, is Meatface friend or foe? Because it's like, is Meatface trying to keep her back from the purple, or is it that they're fighting, that they're wrestling? So all of a sudden I was kind of like, okay, who is Meatface? Is it Kilgrave? Is it another I.G.H. patient? Or is it someone almost protecting her? Really intrigued now as to Meatface.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm so happy that when we saw purple, I was a bit like, oh no, here he comes. I would have loved if they had kept David Tennant, who played Kilgrave in season 1, his usage a secret in season 2. Unfortunately, we knew through photos from set and released official photos from Netflix that he is part of season 2.
I've said this a few times in our podcast. We've done 130 odd episodes at this stage. I've said it a few times. I absolutely hate set photos. People getting their cameras out their windows and taking photographs of our actors on set, wherever they are, whether they're in the street or whether they're in a studio, because this kind of stuff happens where Netflix have to release something about a character saying he's in the show, and then that builds an expectation for the show as well, which it may not deliver on. You know, they had to now release that a character that had died in season 1 is coming back for however many episodes he come back. I stopped reading anything about it. How he may come back for 5 minutes in episode 7, but because that photograph was released of the two of them on set together, we know Kilgrave is going to be in the series at some point.
So, here's my speculation. Kilgrave is not alive. Kilgrave is dead. The purple in the nightmare, and the actor we see as Kilgrave later on, is her mind dealing with being a killer. She is a killer because of Kilgrave.
Yes.
Yeah.
As she said it, I killed someone, ergo, I am a killer. So therefore, I think what we're seeing here is she's going to have some form of another dream, or a walking nightmare, or something, and what we'll have is Kilgrave talking to her going, kill her. Just kill it.
Yeah.
Kill it. Kill. That will be her killer persona. We will then get some other persona of this burned person, who I right now think is a friend from when she was in the I.G.H. facility, and will turn out to be the runaway, that character piece. It's like, run now, get out of here. And you'll have that, the devil and the angel on, well, the purple man and the meat face on the shoulders.
Interesting.
And that's where I see this going. I loved the use of purple, but if I hadn't have known Kilgrave or David Tennant, I was in this season, even for like 2 seconds, I would be breaking my shit when I saw this scene, because I'd be like, oh my god, he's back, ah!
Yeah, absolutely. Have you thought as well, I just wondered, is it the ripples of Kilgrave still in her mind? You know, there's that idea, certainly from season 1, that he controls you. It's about the distance he is from you, but the length of time that he's had you under his power, and that, you know, Jessica was in his presence for an awful long time, being manipulated. There's these ripples of Kilgrave here. So as you say, Chris, his past intrusion and forcing himself on Jessica is still there with her, that trauma, and that's how she's either projecting it, as you say, or that it is his presence still affecting. I mean, for example, is the guy still up against the railings peeing his pants forever?
I hope not. I'm sure
hope
that's
not
been sorted.
too.
So the other person that obviously Meatface could be is our case note number 4, Dr. Leslie Hansen.
I love this one. This was the pickup moment for me.
Right.
On this episode, speeding up the storyline, speeding up. This was like, okay, now we're into case number 2. Now we're into second season. Things are chugging ahead and picking up speed. And I really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
This is like, we got the apartment scene, we got the meeting, we got everything I wanted, plus more and a hell of a lot more questions, obviously. But yeah, I really enjoyed Leslie Hansen being introduced in this way.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the little joke in there about the rent control department. That's how Jessica tracks her down. Rent control departments are something that we don't really have in most other countries, but in New York, they facilitated the characters from Friends being able to live in ridiculously large apartments, even though most of them didn't have jobs for 2 or 3 seasons of that show. It was always like, oh yeah, it's rent control. Sure, the price never goes up effectively, and nobody ever gives up those apartments. That's how Jessica's able to find Dr. Hansen, because even though she may have killed loads of people, there's no way she'd give up a rent control department, right? Nice little gag in there as well. But that's where they find the burnt out head. And through the episode, we have the bribery of the worker in the morgue, who discovers that head is the actual Dr. Hansen. So this person that we're calling Dr. Leslie Hansen throughout this particular point is not Dr. Leslie Hansen.
No.
And we'd speculated right back on the season 2 trailer that was connected to Maya Hansen, a character from the comic books who appeared in Iron Man 3, that there might be some kind of connection between the two of those. They were doing some kind of small screen to big screen connection, but there's nothing there at all. This character, who has very similar abilities to Jessica, only she's stronger and faster and can jump higher. She has no connection, and we don't know her name yet. So we don't know what to call her.
But she still could be Leslie Hansen. We just don't know. Like, is Leslie Hansen, was she the one who fueled the spark that ignited Meatface and potentially Kilgrave and Jessica and the Wizard? Could she be the Professor X?
Well, I'm presuming the guy in the morgue who did the tests on the head that was left in by Trish and Jessica, who checked the dental records and checked that and confirmed that was Dr. Leslie Hansen, that this person isn't Leslie Hansen now. We don't know who she is, but we know she has some of the powers. So probably another test subject of Leslie Hansen, and that's why she got killed. That's possibly the way it was, that she was the one that killed Leslie Hansen, because who likes these powers in this universe?
I think potentially there are, where they close a door, they open another window.
Yeah.
I loved the last scene of this. Where you see Leslie rushing, that back and forth, that first moment of where she starts pushing the desk back at Jessica.
Yes.
And then, like, you see Jessica go, oh, and then as Leslie shoves it, and you see Jessica act surprised. That was like, this person's more powerful. Then the bar fight, then poor Malcolm getting almost clotheslined by the thing, and then the rush and jump and looking over the building. That was cool. Yes. She can't fly, she can jump, but we know Jessica can fly, so it's okay. That's how Jessica will learn to control her flight in this season.
Nope, ain't gonna happen. But no, it was quite cool, and those moments where she actually gives Jessica some real background as to who she is, where she came from. She confirms that Jessica died. For those 20 days, she died on the table, and then she came back to life with the abilities. She wasn't given the abilities by I.G.H. That wasn't the purpose of the experiment. The purpose of their experiment was to bring her back to life, which is interesting. That is slightly different to what we had thought from these previous I.G.H. experiments that had gone on. So it does seem like everybody that's been subject to this dies and then comes back to life. That's quite interesting. And also to know that effectively Jessica Jones is a zombie.
Okay, gents, so we move on to case note number 5. John, do you want to talk to us about a certain visit to a landlord?
Yes, Jessica has been evicted from her apartment. That douchebag, Oscar, his superpowered individual sort of bent at the moment, he has evicted her. But I love the fact that we get to see Malcolm pimped out by Jessica to the landlord, who also then explains how and why Oscar is so dear to him. He's got his Cambodian boyfriend coming over, and Oscar is a master forger. So I wonder if there's any Marvel master forger characters. In the same way that you've got Melvin Potter that we were talking about before, being effectively a superhero tailor. Is there a master forger in the Marvel universe? Maybe. Called Oscar? I don't know. Not entirely sure. But nonetheless, we see here, get a bit more backstory about this guy and why he maybe is so against Jessica. And it's not necessarily because he's anti-superhero, but more because she brought the cops to his door, and he is dealing with forged documents, and he's kind of laying low a bit, really. He's got his own stuff to worry about here. So this was really kind of interesting, and I have to say, Malcolm at the door of the landlord to try and get that eviction notice reversed was pretty funny.
I thought it was absolutely hilarious, that moment of realization on Malcolm's face when he goes, effectively, she's pimped me out here. It's when Jessica goes, be really nice to him. No, I mean really nice to him when you go over. It's just really funny. Poor Malcolm.
I just love that this gave Malcolm, or showed Malcolm, the lengths and Jessica will go. The type of character Jessica is. And I'm wondering if that's going to have some knock-on effect in episode 4 now.
Maybe.
Is he going to rise up to the challenge and confront the person who's been firing him every 10 times a day?
Yeah.
Or is he just going to roll over, literally,
Sit
for
back
the
and
landlord?
take it. Yeah.
Will we see a secondary visit to the landlord? All these things, I'm just like, yeah, this is going to get interesting.
I do like the landlord just kind of going, no, my time for that's over. As if, if you'd come to me 5 years ago, I could have reduced your rent for you maybe or something. But now I've got my Cambodian boyfriend coming over. I'm over all this. That won't happen anymore. Just thought it was a fun little scene with them. One note for me after our case notes, if that's cool. Just because it's connected with this scene. I like the fact that when Jessica breaks into Oscar's apartment, we get her talking to his son Vito, who's totally adoring fan of superheroes. You hear him talk about the fact that he has a Captain America toy in his room. And does Jessica know Captain America? Captain America appeared in the first issue of Jessica Jones. He was one of the big superheroes that was there. And the characters do have kind of an interesting relationship. She doesn't meet him very often, but he is very supportive of who she is and reaching for the best Jessica there is, kind of thing. So interesting that he mentioned it. What's even more interesting is, I think, if I'm right, in all of the episodes of the Defenders series, we never got a mention of Captain America by name in those shows. We definitely get it over in S.H.I.E.L.D., on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but the Netflix Marvel shows, I think we've had a guy with a shield mentioned. We've had, the big green guy mentioned a few times, had the incident mentioned a few times, but I don't know whether they've called that Captain America by name before.
No, in any all these seasons, they've not mentioned. They've said the guy with the hammer, the guy with the shield. They've never directly called them out.
I think that's all Wesley's speech from Daredevil season 1, isn't it?
Exactly.
But also Luke Cage and...
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I suppose they have to, when you have a figure, an action figure, you gotta.
Yeah. That was my first note. Any other notes?
So, from my recent trip to New York City, I can officially say that Rudy's on 9th and 45th is 100% real, and it's a real Hell's Kitchen dive bar. I have been in that bar, and it is quite good, and I don't remember much of that night. But I can say it's definitely there, because I went there, and I went, I remember that place.
Excellent.
My second note, I'll just jump in, is the point about the magnets and Cap's shield. Cap, did, at I think, the early 60s, he used a glove filled with magnets to control his shield's return and things like that.
Oh, right.
Very old, cheesy one back, we're talking golden age here now.
Right.
Early 60s. Maybe late 60s, I don't know. The 60s.
Okay.
If you go...
I've probably read most of those books, because it's around the time that Strange Tales had him as a character every 3 or 4 issues. So.
You have, if you just basically Google... 1960s Avengers, Captain America, Magnets, Shield. you'll find a pretty damning image where it's him with a glove, his red glove, and 2 bars of magnets,
Very
kind of
cool.
controlling his shield coming back.
So this is mentioned in the episode where Vito is talking to Jessica and saying that his toy Captain America, he's lost the magnets in the hand, so it's not able to hold on to the shield anymore, and then he's lost the shield. Isn't that right?
Yes, correct.
Like
and so I want to build another one.
Yeah.
No, it's just a nice little nod back to it.
And of course, we mentioned Tin Cup Bourbon earlier, but this time, obviously, we see it being intravenously administered into Jessica's arm in her dream of purple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And on Door Watch, as we started back up for season 2, lots of mentions of doors in this episode. I love that moment where she's standing in the way of Oscar trying to slam the door on her and just holds it open. Looks like the easiest thing in the world as he's trying to slam the door on her and push her out. She just holds it open in the way. And also the fact that the only piece of advice that she took from everything that Dr. Thibault said to her is that you have to go through the door. When it's open, you have to go through the door, and she repeats that advice. So they're still trolling us. We are definitely going to see that Alias Investigations door getting smashed, probably in episode 13. But they're definitely trolling us with these door discussions.
Yes, and talking about trolling, the film from the very first episode on the being projected onto the wall on the back,
Yes.
on the top of the building was 100% The Killers from 1946.
Oh, okay. Jeff Childs over in our Facebook group had actually put a guess in that it was the third man. He thought that that's what it was. I agreed with them at the time, but okay, that's interesting. So,
I suppose let's try and get our hands on both of the films and recreate the scene.
find that moment. I like it. Thanks for that one, Chris. Good stuff.
That's all from me, and that's all our notes, I believe. So, gentlemen, Derek, do you defend Jessica Jones Season 2, Episode 3, a.k.a. Soul Survivor?
Yes, I definitely defend this episode. This is the best episode so far this season. No doubt about it. There's some great moments in here. All the characters getting some interesting moments, setting them up for the rest of the season in here. Didn't feel slow, felt interesting, had some cool stuff. And now we know we also have a superpowered possible villain here for Jessica, possibly Meatface. We're seeing a little bit of that purple creep back into the show, so some intriguing stuff to watch on. If I wasn't doing the podcast, I absolutely would have pressed play for that next episode without a doubt to see what's going on in the world of Jessica Jones. So huge defend from me, definitely. John, do you defend Jessica Jones Season 2, Episode 3, a.k.a. Soul Survivor?
I do defend this episode of Jessica Jones. I give this 4.5 meat faces out of 5. I really felt this kicked in here for me on a number of different levels. I love the fact that we got to see Dr. Leslie Hansen, or should I say not Dr. Leslie Hansen, coming up against Jessica. I really love the tension in that scene, the challenge from Dr. Hansen back to Jessica about why she should be grateful for what I.G.H has done. You know, it's just kind of murking the waters a bit here. And I really, really like that. I love the Foggy cameo. I really enjoyed, Jessica kind of stepping up to her past and really saying, I need to investigate this now. I need to delve into it because people are getting killed because of it. It links to what Frederick's voicemail said at the beginning, where she was too almost, this metaphor that she couldn't walk past her brother's ashes because that would have to confront the past. She took the window instead. I thought that was really good. I really thought that Jeri, that scene to me was so far is the standout scene for this. And I think it, in terms of how it links to her orgy effectively in episode 2, just so good. It meant something. It felt something on that, and I think that's a real mark of a great show when one of the most dodgy, maybe / despicable people in the show you're not entirely sure about, really gets your sympathy in terms of their dealing with that as well, really. And then to see the purple come back. Who is Meatface, friend or foe? I really, really enjoyed. So absolutely defend this episode of Jessica Jones. Christoph, do you defend episode 3, aka Soul Survivor, cue music of Jessica Jones.
Yes, I do. I was starting to feel apprehensive that this was going to be equally as slow as the second episode. As soon as I turned it on, though, all fears or apprehensions were alleviated. This was a top-notch episode. The scene with Jeri, the scene at the end, just everything about it. Basically, what they did was they said, okay, we've given you enough Basil exposition. Now we are into 100% season 2, case 2. This is what you want to see. This is everything you need to know. The disclosure scene just hit me hard. Just so good. If one scene could get an Emmy nomination, this would be for me.
Right.
If you can just nominate a scene versus a series or an episode, this would be it for me. The potential of Hellcat's origin starting here, this is where I'm really interested to see where that storyline goes. And to top it all off, we're starting to see the true colours of the evil British man in the suit, Griffin. But I have no idea why I am so afraid of evil British men in suits. Derek, could you tell me why?
It's because you've known John for about 13 years, isn't it?
Yeah, that's probably about why.
I never wear a suit. How could you possibly be afraid of me?
That's true. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow defenders, John never wears a suit. He just wears a shirt and tie. Anyway, gentlemen, I think our fellow defenders have heard enough of us for this episode. I think it's about time they hear from their other fellow defenders and what they thought of this episode. If you are interested in sending us feedback, don't forget you can leave us a voicemail on our website at defenderstvpodcast.com, email it through at feedback@defenderstvpodcast.com, or drop over to our group on Facebook. It's quite an easy one. It's facebook.com/groups/Defenders TV podcast. The first person who got there for episode 3 with feedback was Debbie Fisher. Debbie went on to say, Jessica pimping out Malcolm to the landlord. I really am loving all the Malcolm. I know he was an addict last season, but he's all buff and pumped up and wearing sleeveless shirts this season. I guess the clean lifestyle. And the scene from the preview, Jessica sitting on her desk and getting up really fast to answer the door for her super to unclog her potty. Griffin and the flash dive. Yes, Debbie, thank you so much. I know a lot of people have become very much Malcolm shippers.
Absolutely. Thank you, Debbie. I hear you. What's not to like about a buffed, pumped up Malcolm?
A really good catch there on Jessica hopping up off her desk really fast, which we thought was a moment of action in the series, and turns out that she's answering her door to her super who's coming to unclog her toilet. It's hilarious. Nice marketing there, Netflix. We'll grab that scene and we'll put it into the trailer for the show. Carl Hansley says, is there any chance that Dr. Leslie Hansen is related to Dr. Maya Hansen from Iron Man 3? Again, we thought about that, but at the moment, Leslie Hansen has now perished in the furnace below her rent-controlled apartment. So very unlikely there's going to be any connection to Maya that will be released.
Yes, and Robert Phillips goes, crikey, Malcolm does good work. Trish does some impressive self-defense work. Jessica clearly bought a case of Tin-Cup. Garibaldi, or whatever Trish's boyfriend is called. Griffin it is. I'm having problems with his name as well, but Derek has provided a good reminder. Think Gryffindor. Think Harry Potter. It is Griffin.
It's only because you said gold star to Griffin last week, so now it's been in my head as his name is Gryffindor.
Absolutely.
And doors are very important to Jessica Jones.
Exactly. But as Robert Phillips says, Garibaldi, or should I say Griffin, is clearly a bad guy. She loves him. He has a British accent. He lives on a Death Star, and Jessica has found no dirt on him. Plus the secret of typing on a laptop, and the titular Chris Jones was right. The monster is a woman. Except I don't think the titular Chris Jones said this. But nonetheless, I'll give it to him just this once.
I think that might have been John.
I'm always right. I am like the patriarch of Jessica Jones. I am the titular Jones in this podcast. You may have Jessica, but most people have me.
I don't think you know what titular means. It doesn't mean only, Chris.
I know, but I like saying titular. It's like saying ergo. It makes you sound really smart. Ergo, I am the titular, Mr. Jones. I am the only Mr. Jones.
But I should also just finish off that Robert Phillips goes, enjoying this. And I think we really all are. This is a really fantastic show that is building up, definitely.
Yes, really enjoying it so far. Thanks so much for all of the feedback. Keep it coming. We'll keep, obviously, talking about it on the podcast as well. Always great to hear from our listeners and our wonderful fellow defenders. That's it for this week's episode.
It is. We will be back later in the week with Jessica Jones, Season 2, Episode 4, a.k.a. God Help the Hobo. You can always find us if you want to talk to us between those sessions on our group on Facebook or on Twitter at DefendersCast. You can, don't forget to write us a review on Apple Podcasts and share the love by sharing the podcast around the world. You can find us on Google Play Music or any drunk or sober podcast catcher around the world. Don't forget, if you want to make sure you don't miss an episode, subscribe to us at defenderstvpodcast.com/iTunes. And to end on the note that we were finishing every episode this season, go find your sister or your sister's sister or your friend's sister or your other person's sister or your partner's sister or any sister will do and tell them about this podcast. And when they ask, what the hell is a Defenders TV podcast? You know what to say. The only place you need to go for all your Defenders, Marvel, Netflix news and reviews.
Yeah, and don't forget to use that code over on Stitcher Premium. Just go to stitcher.com/premium, put in the code DEFENDERS so that you can get the first episode of Wolverine, which should be out already as you're listening to this podcast. So you can listen to our podcast and then get the first episode of Wolverine, which came out on the 12th of March.
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, we will be back with not only Jessica Jones Season 2, but also our coverage of Doctor Strange Damnation, where we'll be looking at issue 387 of the Doctor Strange tie-in comic.
Yes, looking forward to that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's great fun talking about comic books. Enjoyed that.
It's fantastic.
Thanks very much for joining us, fellow defenders. Talk to you soon.
See you soon, guys, and thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, as always, it's been great speaking with you. And my scroty sense is really tingling here. I think it could be ochre, actually. But with that, after the ochre, I'll speak with you again soon.
You might need to get that checked out, John.
Bye.
Bye.